clarify, on the September 5th deadline for first-time applicants, you said that if they receive it before September 1st, September 5th, the application should be correct. What if it's postmarked September 4th or previous dates?
They said received by September 5th, so
it actually needs to be in their hands on September 5th. At least that's the way the sort of the strict reading of the memo is, and I would imagine that that's what they're going to adopt.
So what would happen to those applications that were sent before September 5th but not received?
they'll probably get rejected and returned with the money that was sent in. They just won't be accepted at the facility where they're filed.
So there's no fear of deportation if it's sent back?
They won't. The rejection would happen right there in the mailroom before information gets captured.
Oh.
Most of the information that they capture, I mean, some of it is from the form that gets entered into databases after they've decided to accept the filing. And then a couple weeks, 3 weeks later, people get fingerprinted at a local office, and that's where they get other information. And so that kind of information would not be exposed if the application is rejected.
And one thing I listened, there was a United We Dream call last night, and it had a question and answer portion, and someone called in and asked a question about, is there a risk about going to get my biometrics done? So that's when you go and get your fingerprint. And in terms of just showing up at the office, the sort of something to keep in mind is, again, the biometrics is done by USCIS, not the enforcement branch. And it's a place where all sorts of individuals are going to get their biometrics done. So it might be someone who's a green card holder and has a pending application for citizenship. It could be someone who's applying for their DACA or their DACA renewal, and it's not a place where they're singling out particular types of applicants. I think the only place where the sort of risk comes in is if you do have a new arrest or criminal conviction since your initial application. By doing biometrics, you're sort of putting the government on alert that that has occurred. Any other questions? Yeah.
On one of your slides, you mentioned the issue of entering on parole, and that's sort of a legal entry. And so is the point that you were making there that you might have a better claim to stay?
It opens up a path to apply for permanent residence. It's called adjustment of status. And normally, people aren't able to adjust status if their first entry into the country was unlawful. Mm-hmm. Like if you came on a visa and you overstayed, you can still adjust if you marry a citizen or you get a certain kind of job offer and employment sponsoring. You can flip into a different, green card holder, basically. But the law says if you came illegally the first time, no adjustment is possible. So the great thing about advanced parole is it counts as a lawful entry. And so all of a sudden, people who have gotten married or gotten certain kinds of jobs, might be able to take advantage of that.
So on the topic of marriage, I know some people have been thinking that they're thinking on an extreme that, this is happening, so I gotta get married to a U.S. citizen.
Don't
which is,
do that.
Yeah, no, I know.
Not you.
So what can we tell these people, that...
Okay. Marriage can help some people fix their immigration status. It's not a guarantee, again, because it matters how you came into the country the first time. But it can open up a route for people. If you are getting married only to procure an immigration benefit, that will not work, and you'll be barred from any benefits in the future. And they are very determined to figure out if there's marriage fraud. So you're getting married and there's a benefit, awesome. You're getting married just to get the immigration benefit and not because it's a real relationship, a real intent to be married, you're incurring so much permanent damaging risk to your ability to ever fix your status. So marriage should never be entered into lightly, but in immigration, it's especially.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And also, I think people do think it's almost automatic if you have a citizen spouse or citizen child that you can fix your status, and it's not remotely close to automatic. It's worth exploring whether it gives you options, because it may, but it's not automatic. It's a big caution on that. It's a great question.
Sorry. Well, when it comes to renewing driver's licenses, what can you tell about applicants? If it's expired.
So my understanding, and I'm new to Maryland, so a little bit of a caveat, and jump in if I get this wrong, is that in Maryland there's sort of two types. There's those for anyone who is a Maryland resident, essentially, can get a license. However, it's a sort of restricted license, so it's clear that it's not there's sort of immigration, federally recognized. And then there's a second group for people who have work permits or lawful status here in the United States. And so one of the things is that you can renew that. I think the question I had, and I don't know the answer, and maybe Liz does, is okay, what happens if you have that type of work permit, you have a driver's license that you obtained while having a valid DACA EAD, your EAD expires, can you continue along with the same category, a driver's license or not? And I don't know the answer. I don't know if you do.
I think we're going to need to wait for the MVA to issue guidance on that, and people will be able to get a license because we do have the Maryland driver's license law, but what will happen, whether they'll have to do that immediately once DACA expires, we don't know yet.
Well, can I comment on it?
That would be great.
Usually, for a Maryland driver's license, you need to provide 2 years of tax. So I would assume that you would still need to provide, because you need to basically prove that you've been in the state for at least 2 years. That's how you're able to get it if you don't have like a valid social security or something like that. If it's the same for if you're expiring, you would still need to register through the comptroller, get that certification, go to the MBA, get your license. It's going to be restricted.
Yeah.
That's the only downfall. But other than that, everyone's license who has DACA expires on the same date. So
Okay,
they'll
that's
have
what I
to
wasn't
move
sure
in.
of. Yeah, so renewal of the driver's license you won't be able to renew the same kind of license once DACA expires.
But if we hear more information, we'll make sure to circulate that, because I imagine that they're going to be getting questions related to that, and that some sort of updated announcement or advisory or just clarification on what the process will be forthcoming.
Other questions? Anything at all?
No? Well, we can move into talking a little bit about safety planning, and then if there's lingering questions at the end, we can